in government in Kenya, the Ministry of Transport. I'll tell you a little bit about him, but he's going to tell you a lot more about himself, because I asked him to cover a topic that I thought was very relevant to what we're doing, but also one that you guys can identify with. Irungu was with us. Let me call him Mr. Nyakera, because principal secretaries must be addressed honorably. Mr. Nyakera was with us, managing the Equity Investment Bank until the end of 2015. So he's someone who has proven himself. Besides being the youngest principal secretary, he was already a managing director of a large organization, the Equity Investment Bank. Prior to that, he managed the NIC Investment Bank. Before that, he worked in the UK in the Citigroup. He's been working in the business and finance sector. He's an alumni of Starehe Boys. I hear, ooh, I should be hearing, ooh. The girls are more impressed. And also an alumni of Stanford University. Let me not tell his story, but let me just welcome you, Mr. Nyakera. It is a delight to have you here with us. We are looking forward to hearing from you, because these scholars, the things we've been saying to them this week is that education is a means to realizing dreams of leadership, to realizing success, but also to making contribution to transform societies, starting with themselves, their families, their communities, our country, the region, and the world. And you represent that, given where you're heading at such a tender and young age. So, Mr. Nyakera, karibu.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Gishohi, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the equity scholars, good afternoon once again. Thank you, Daktari, for the very kind and generous introduction. And as I remember the last time I'm sure we were all together when we were at the equity group and addressed you. We probably didn't address you, but we were together as at a similar session last year. But I feel extremely honored to be invited to speak to you at this function today. I also have to admit that it is the largest audience I've ever spoken to. Daktari has told me that it's about 3,500 of you. And so please wish me luck in addressing you. When Daktari invited me for this event today and told me that the theme is nurturing a global mindset as I speak to you today, I wasn't very sure what I would speak about, but I was also cognizant of my worldwide experiences in the few years of my existence. So, to the young people that I'm speaking to you today, I hope that you will forgive me for telling you something about my own life and how I think it bears out the theme of creating a global mindset at an early age. It will allow for some honesty and sincerity on my part as I choose myself, because I think I know myself best of all. But I'm sure my wife might disagree with that statement. I think just very quickly, just starting out with a life journey, because I believe I share a lot of similarities in my background as a lot of you. For me, as Dr. said, I went to Starehe Boys, where I was actually there for 13 years. I started there from class 1 to class 8, joined Form 1 to Form 4, and did an extra year in computers. But I was, from class 1, I was also very lucky, like many of you, to get a sponsor who paid for me all my expenses in those 13 years. And so I never had I had the same opportunity that you have, in that someone else was taking care of that expense for me. And that gave me comfort, gave me an opportunity to focus on what I could best, which was to study hard, strive hard, and really push to ensure that at the end of the day, that person will look at me and say, I tried my bit. And I hope that that is the same thing that you're doing today. Being a young man, of course, we are presented with a lot of opportunities at school, and the opportunities that I also hope that you'll take, opportunities.
There's a lot of noise. There is movement for those who are going for prayers. Can we do it quietly? When we have a guest, it is of utmost importance that we pay attention. So those who are going for prayers, please do so quietly. Thank you, and sorry for the interruption.
So the opportunities in leadership, opportunities in the time with our mentors, opportunities with the time with my colleagues at school, to learn a lot about each other, and to learn a lot, by so doing, learn a lot about myself. Never then did I imagine about life outside the country and how that would impact on myself, given that all along I had come from a background as humble as for many of you. So late in 2001, after we had finished our exams, not late, but sometime in 2001, we were already received our admission. I was admitted to Nairobi University to pursue medicine. And at some point in 2002, Dr. Griffin, the then director of Starehe, asked me to go represent Starehe at a school in Deerfield, in Massachusetts, in the US. This will then, of course, for me, I was now looking at it, looking at the opportunity that I already had to become a doctor here, and also an opportunity on the other side to pursue something out of my comfort zone, something actually I didn't even know about. I didn't know the outcome, and it's then that I thought that Griffin could have picked any of the 220 of us, and he picked me. And with that, I imagined, with his wisdom, then I should give it a shot. And that's probably one thing I might want to mention and probably emphasize, is it's always good to be very open. Don't fixate. Don't say, I will only do things in a certain way. Life is in one path. It's very many paths. And it's the sum total of the different paths that you take that makes life. So I decided to do that. And when I went to the US, I got and to Deerfield. I was much older. I was a postgraduate student there, so I was much older than all the other students. And yet I had a lot that I could learn from them. There was a different culture, different way of doing things, and different upbringing for each of us. And so one is either you learn to do that, live with the others, or you just stick within your own cocoon and then don't necessarily have to learn much. You don't end up growing. So at Deerfield, then I decided to apply to some universities and got into Stanford. And again, this getting into Stanford University, being one of the good universities in the US, I knew that I was there to represent my country, to represent myself, and also craft a career and a future for myself. And the only way that you can actually be able to build yourself in such circumstances, such situations, such places, is the same as the other places, just learning from the others. It is very rare that you find yourself in a situation where you're the best at everything. And that's the same thing I'd like to just ask of each of you. As you engage with others, just don't always think of what they are getting from you. Also look at what do you get from each of them. If I have 10 people around me, it means that I can learn 10 different things from each of those. So I aspired to learn from them. And I also aspired to be very open in whatever I was doing, very open-minded. I'd come from Kenya, where I knew I had at least some brain, and we were going to this place where a lot of people seem to have the same. So I told myself, I can't do medicine, but then I can do computer science engineering. I started out computer science the first year. I found it to be too difficult for me. So I decided to switch. The second year, I was doing electrical engineering. And this is a 4-year program. So by the end of the second year, I realized this one is also too difficult for me. So I was in my third year, and I have no major. And then that's when I heard of something called industrial engineering. Sounded very interesting to me, because the others were already difficult. And found that it's management science engineering with a focus in finance. And I decided, since I've already taken some course modules for this one, why don't I try it? So I picked that one. And in doing that, I started enjoying it. More. And I started looking at what can I do with this. I can no longer be your everyday engineer, because it's totally different. And with that, I started interacting with my mentors, who are very important in all your engagements. And they gave me, that's when they told me about investment banking. I had never heard of investment banking. And even after learning about it, I found out that it's a very, at least in the American and global culture at that time, it was one of the most competitive career paths in the country. But then I decided I'll pursue that route. And in this is really another way to urge you that it's never too late. It's never too late to change. It's never too late to work hard in a different direction. I knew one thing I was certain is if I continue with electrical engineering, I'd be unhappy. The other thing I wasn't certain about is whether I would be happy if I picked a new major. So at least I went the path that there was some possibility of happiness. And so I would urge each of you to at least be flexible in that manner. So while doing this, I got a job in my third year after I had started this management science engineering, got some internship in New York, and after my internship, they decided to give me a full-time job a year in advance. So when I finished my graduated, I went to New York and was quickly moved to London. I was given the option of either looking for another job or moving to London. And already the experiences in a lot of these places is so cosmopolitan and different, because you have people from all walks of life, all races, all backgrounds, and each of them have their own way of doing things. And it's really for you to fit in a global setting. It's never about the globe and the people around you to fit in to you. It's about you to fit in to everyone else. The same way as you've realized now, as you're going to school, as you plan to go succeed, go to university, it's about you fitting in. It's about you finding out, what do these people appreciate? How best can I fit in without compromising my moral fiber, without compromising my aspirations, without compromising your goals that I'm sure from each of you, if I ask you, you've set out some goals. So when I went to London, one thing I always knew is that I want to take as much as I can outside there to eventually come back to this country and add value. Take this country in whatever way I can, with whatever little I have, to a level where these other countries we all want to be in already are. So there was always that aspiration, that plan for me to come back to add value to my country. So in 2009, after what was a global economic crisis, and we say there's always a silver lining, we were laid off during that whole crisis, and the first person I called when we were told that we no longer had jobs was Dr. James Mwangi. I called him, I said, I'd like to come speak to you and see if there are opportunities I can come back to Kenya and pursue. So he asked me, have you looked at any opportunities in London? I told him yes, but I'm no longer interested in any of the opportunities here. It's a global setting that I was already part of, but I felt that I was, in a way, ready to bring my learnings, what I've learned in those 6-7 years that I was out there, to bring them back to build my country. And really, when I came back, we engaged, but I ended up moving to a different company. But at last, I still came back to Equity. And that's the journey that I took in getting to Equity, in getting to where I am. And I think if there are a few things that I would look at from this whole journey, the things that I've learned, the things that I'd like to share with you, and the things that I'd hope for the ones who are not sleeping, you can at least pick up or pick out, is being open. No one knows tomorrow. You could be here thinking that the best thing, your biggest asset, is your hands. Tomorrow you have an accident, you lose that hand. Do you commit suicide after that? No. You figure how to live under the new circumstances. And meaning that you should always be on the lookout for opportunities for the ways to improve yourself, for the way to also improve the ones next to you, as well as to change your life circumstances through alternatives, through looking at what are the different possibilities and aligning your interests with what you feel might work then and for future. Then, secondly, is to be kind. As you adopt to the people around you, at the end of the day, it's about, are you able to relate with them? Are you empathetic to other people's situations? I think we are all here because someone else was kind. And we are always told that in whatever you do, try ensure that someone else does not suffer because of if they don't have to, if there's a role that you can play. And for you to be able to live with others, and as I was able to in all those years, I think people appreciate empathetic people. If you're empathetic, you're able to interact much better with people. You're able to build better networks. You're able to look at the big picture. And so it's actually something that you should strive for. A story is told of a gentleman who was going for an interview, and when they got to the parking, they saw a parking slot, saw someone reversing into the parking, but quickly cut them off because they were in a hurry. And they even showed them the finger. They went to the interview room, then they were told to wait. Not all the panelists had arrived. And then when they got to the interview room, the chairman was the person they had cut off. Yeah? So things change. Then there is the opportunities. I would say, even though I don't know a lot of Latin, there is a phrase called carpe diem. You seize the moment. Look at the opportunities that are at play. You are at school now. You're in high school. Don't just look at, you should ensure that you focus on your academics. But there is a lot more to build around yourself than just the academics. There's the interactions with others to build your social skills. There's the leadership opportunities to build that element of responsibility. And there's a lot more, sports and others. Today we are all looking at the Olympics, cheering on Kenyans. So there's a lot that there is to look at. And you should always seize the opportunity. In very many cases, it never comes twice. And again, a story is told of this very rich man who had his daughter that he wanted to betroth. But he said that he has a lot of money, that he doesn't want a dowry. So he said the only thing he wants is he wants the young man, who would be brave enough to go into a pen with some fiery bulls and cut off the tail of one of the bulls. There were 3 bulls. And whoever brings him the tail of that bull then can get his daughter's hand in marriage. So, of course, it's a long story, but at the end of the day, a certain young man came and said, I can do this. So he went to the pen. The first bull came, and it was really fiery. Huge horns, looking at him, breathing heavy. And when it was very close to him, he said, no, there are two more. I can't touch this one. So he moved and it passed. So he got to leave. Then the second one was released. This one looked equally menacing. And from the look of it, he decided, I think I'll take my chance with the third one, because the third one, then I'll make my move. When the third bull was released, he looked at it. It was not moving as fast. It looked very docile. And he decided, this is a bull that I'll slice the tail and I'll get this beautiful girl to be my wife. So as the bull came to pass him, he put his jora up high to cut the tail. But when he passed, he realized that it actually did not have a tail. So it's about the opportunities. You have to seize the moment. You don't know what's next. You don't know whether the next thing, opportunity will come to you, will find you in a situation when you can't take it. So it's always better to try. It's better to fail. And you can say, I learned so many ways of failing. Like the Edison, was it Thomas Edison, who learned 10,000 ways of that a light bulb could not work. And finally, it's about your future. There is no one who has a better interest in your future as yourself. No one should lie to you. Your employer eventually will give you everything you want, but he's also be looking at, are you bringing value to them? Your friends are not 100% selfless. They'll be looking at, are you adding value to their lives? So at the end of the day, it is you. It boils down to you. Do you have the same interest in your life that such that if no one else did, life will still continue? So you have to work hard. You have sometimes to be selfish. That's why you are selfish with your time. If someone tells you, let's go play, you need to look at, is there an exam tomorrow? You know, we used to have these people who used to, during prep time, they're the ones making the most noise, but then they wake up at 2 in the morning to study when everyone is asleep. At 6 in the morning when you wake up, you're waking up with them. So their interest, they sorted out their interest. But then you, as if you just follow them blindly, you'll never get to achieve really what you could potentially have. So, my dear young friends, this is my message to you. From the few experiences that I've shared, from the journey that I've walked, what can I say that I have learned to date? Well, I've learned that we all have to acquire excellent skills and to believe in them, even when they are not called for immediately. So, work hard at being really good at something. I have learned that we all get chances to either sustain the status quo or to take chances and risks and explore possibilities that pull us away from our comfort zones. There is a saying that it is very easy for a pencil to look sharp if it's not being used. This applies to us. as well, where it is very easy to look and be comfortable, even successful, when we don't take chances outside our comfort zones, because we don't know what else is possible. I have learned it is more fulfilling to take calculated risks and to explore what life can offer beyond our present circumstances. Therefore, and in conclusion, I would like to encourage you. Actually, no. I would like to implore you, each and every one of you, to live fearlessly, to explore opportunities outside your zone, to think globally, and most importantly, when you can, seize the moment for a brighter future, or Carpe Diem. Asanteni.
I think you can agree with me that it was worth bringing Mr. Nyakera. Very profound message, very simply put,